Greetings. I am Dr. Earl Parcell, the proud superintendent of Copeland Independent School District. I would like to take a few minutes to share some information and facts about the 2024 Copeland ISD Vatre. Before I begin, I want to review the Copeland ISD mission statement, vision, and beliefs. Our mission: in partnership with our families and community, Copeland ISD ensures a safe and respectful environment. Our dedicated and knowledgeable staff motivate students to learn, grow, and achieve personal success. We maintain our tradition of academic excellence and strength of character, upholding the cowboy way. Our vision: Copeland ISD instills a foundation of academics and character, empowering all students to achieve excellence. Our beliefs: providing an engaging and safe environment where all students have the opportunity to learn and their growth is celebrated. Collaborating with families to create a community of support for our students. Holding high expectations for character and academic excellence, our decisions and efforts are guided and informed by our vision, mission, and belief statements. So let's get started. If you watched the School Finance Basics video, then you recall that school districts must have an approved budget every year. A budget is a legal requirement. During the budgeting process this past school year, the Board of Trustees met 4 different times, heard and discussed recommendations from district administration, and ultimately approved the budget on the right side of the screen. The only difference between the draft budget on the left and the one on the right is revenue. Let's take a deeper dive into the numbers. You can see that the expenses are the same and the revenue is $208,733 greater in the approved budget column. The additional revenue would provide the district with a surplus instead of a budget deficit. I will explain how these additional funds will be used shortly. On August 19th, 2024, the Board of Trustees unanimously approved and called for a voter-approved tax ratification election, also known as a Vatre, for a 3-cent maintenance and operation tax increase. If approved by the voters of Copeland ISD, the district revenue would increase by about $209,000. So what now what? Why a Vatre? For starters, you saw without the Vatre revenue, the district would have a deficit budget for the current school year. Next, looking forward. Salary and healthcare costs are only going to increase. School districts must be able to recruit and retain high-quality staff. The state's current funding formula includes a basic allotment per student of $6,160. This allotment has not changed since 2019. The cost of school business expenses has increased at a rate much higher than school district revenue. In order to recruit and retain a high-quality staff, the district needs to consider all options to increase revenue. A Vatre is one option. Finally, the school district passed a bond to build a new middle school in May of 2023. I'm happy to say that construction will officially begin in October 2024, and Copeland Middle School is scheduled to open its doors in August of 2026. Why am I bringing this up? We have bond money, right? True, but bond funds are to be used for construction. With a new facility comes new expenses. There are initial one-time costs and reoccurring costs. To sum things up, maintenance and operational costs are going to increase, and without additional funding, tough decisions will have to be made. So what is a voter-approved tax ratification election? A Vatre is when voters decide to increase the M&O property tax rate. Why a Vatre? A Vatre is a way of increasing school district revenue. There are other ways to increase revenue, including increasing enrollment, increasing attendance, and increasing the basic allotment. School districts, however, do not directly control enrollment or attendance, and the basic allotment, as discussed earlier, would require legislative action. Current revenue formulas are stagnant, and state funding formulas remain constant. A Vatre is a way for a district to maximize state and local funding, or increase the size of our bucket. Here is a draft of initial one-time costs needed for the new middle school that are not included with bond money. With bond money, think about building a school, turning it over, and whatever falls out is not covered with bond money. Initial costs including shelving, paper holders, paper, lawnmowers, kitchen supplies, the initial installment of supplies in the supply room, and chairs in the front office for our guests. The basic overhead reoccurring costs of operating a school include additional staff, utilities, property insurance, security, and supplies. Again, how can the district increase the size of the bucket needed in order to address initial one-time costs and then cover reoccurring expenses? 1, we can add ping pong balls to the bucket. increasing the enrollment through attendance. 2, we can spend less, but know that we've already cut the supply budget by more than $100,000 for the current year in order to give staff a pay raise. And 3, increase the basic allotment. Remember, this is a 2019 number, $6,160 per student. But this requires legislative action. And the 4th option is a voter-approved tax ratification election. The ballot language. What you see on your screen is what the ballot language will look like. On August 19th, 2024, the Board of Trustees ordered a Vatre to be on the November 5th ballot. Let's quickly dive into the M&O tax rate. There are 2 tiers. Tier 1 is the maximum compressed rate, MCR, that is set by the state. Tier 2 are the gold and copper pennies. Copeland and most districts have the first 5 gold pennies. For Copeland to receive gold pennies, the 6th, 7th, and 8th penny, a Vatre is required. Tier 2 also includes up to 9 copper pennies. What are gold pennies? Great question. Technically, they are the first 8 cents of tax effort after the MCR. They are high yield, remember that. They are high yield and have a specific value per penny per weighted student. And, most importantly, they are not subject to recapture, or Robin Hood. You may have heard this as Robin Hood in the past. Recapture is when a school district generates more local tax revenue, rice, than its bucket can hold. The rice that spills over is then returned to the state. That is the recapture payment. Copper pennies also have a specific value per penny per weighted student. And these pennies are subject to recapture. So, golden penny revenue will not be returned to the state. The bucket gets bigger, so to collect all the rice, the taxes, generated from the 3 golden pennies. In order for the district to receive the additional golden penny revenue, the voters must approve the Vatre that will be on the November 5th, 2024 ballot. If the Vatre passes, then the district would receive additional revenue from the last 3 golden pennies still available to Copeland ISD. Here's how the math works. Currently, Copeland ISD's MCR is 0.6169. Add the additional 5 gold pennies we already have, the M&O rate would be 0.6669. With the additional 3 golden pennies, the M&O tax rate for day-to-day expenses and operations, remember, is going to be 0.6969. The copper pennies are not an option at this time, primarily because they are subject to recapture and golden pennies are not. From this chart, you can see that for every golden penny of additional tax effort, the district would receive approximately $70,000. 3 golden pennies would generate about $210,000. Notice that the golden pennies are not subject to recapture. Copper pennies are. A few slides ago, I shared that golden pennies are high yield. What does that mean? If a Vatre is approved by the voters, local taxes would generate about $80,000 in rice, and the state would provide approximately $130,000, red kidney beans. For every 2 cents collected locally, the state would give us 3 more. That is a high return. And remember, all of these funds will always stay in your community in Copeland ISD. They are not subject to recapture. Okay. You may be wondering, what would the district do with the additional funds? Great question. Here's the spending plan for the additional funds. In 2024-2025, if the Vatre was to pass, all staff would receive a one-time payment. Additional staff would be hired, but only as needed. And surplus funds would be committed to fund balance for initial one-time costs that we discussed earlier. 25-26 school year, additional staff would again be hired, but only if needed. And then we would begin purchasing initial and one-time expense items to put in the new middle school. For the 2026-2027 school year, the funds would be used and included in the maintenance and operations budget for staff and stuff or supplies. The impact of a 3-cent Vatre is the increase in M&O tax rate by 3 cents. This would result in a $28 increase in school taxes for a $200,000 property value after the homestead exemption. About $209,000 in additional M&O revenue. And remember, these funds are not subject to recapture. The total tax rate with the Vatre approved would be 1.1969, which is comprised of an M&O rate of 0.6969 and an INS tax rate of 50 cents. A Vatre is not the solution alone. Rather, a combination of several things will help Copeland ISD move forward. Remember these? If the voters approve the tax ratification election for 3 golden pennies, what would happen? We would add the 3 golden pennies to our bucket. Our bucket would get bigger, the size would be bigger. Which bucket is going to be impacted? It's maintenance and operations, not INS. The 3 golden pennies that we added would increase the size of our bucket. What does that mean as far as filling it now? We would get a little more rice, and then the state would add more in kidney beans. So we'd add a little rice, local property taxes go $80,000 worth, and the state would contribute $130,000 more dollars in kidney beans. Wrapping things up. A Vatre would increase revenue by approximately $208,733. It would increase taxes on a $200,000 property by $2.31 a month, or about $28 per year. The funds would be used for maintenance and operations, which is day-to-day expenses, for staff, initial one-time expenses, for the new middle school, and supplies. It would generate about $80,000 in local revenue, and in return, the state will provide an additional $130,000 because these additional golden pennies are high yield. The golden penny revenue is not subject to recapture. If a homeowner is over 65 years old, this would not impact their taxes. The $100,000 homestead exemption has also been factored into these calculations. Here are important election dates. The last day to register to vote is Monday, October 7th. The first day of early voting is Monday, October 21st. The last day of early voting is Friday, November 1st. And Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. If you have any questions about Copeland ISD finances, I want to encourage you to review the monthly board agendas as financials are reviewed every month. I would also point you to the Texas Education Agency website, and you can always reach out and ask a question. I really appreciate your time. Take care.